Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 27 of season 2. My name is Tamara, and you're listening to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Today's guest is Addie. We'll be talking about the lifestyle from a beginner's perspective and the resources to find out more about it. If you like this episode, be sure to tell your friends about it and rate it as well. All right, thanks for joining me today, Addie.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, so I usually just jump right in. So I'll ask, so how did you get started, or what, or when you were looking at this, how did you know what to do, or like just kind of?
Well, it was interesting. I had been in a relationship with somebody we had already been together 2 years, the man that I was dating, and then we decided to move in together, and always had a really good sex life, but we had felt like things were getting kind of stale. And we had talked about how we'd both been married and divorced, how we think it's incredibly hard to stay monogamous forever. So we were like, maybe we can go to one of these sex clubs, and that would be a way, because we're together and there's some boundaries, to have sex with other people, but it wouldn't be cheating or deceptive, because we didn't want to have relationships with other people, just the sexual part, to have variety. So we went to hear some people that had a podcast that had been in the lifestyle a long time, and heard them talk about how people would get into the lifestyle. And they talked about different apps where you could meet other people, or that there was different sex clubs that you could go to meet people. And so that's what brought it up for us. We started with going to a local sex club that's outside Baltimore. Can I say the name of it or no?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean,
because it's been around a long time. So there's one outside of Baltimore called Taboo that we went to, and it's, I think, open like a couple nights a week. And because they're private clubs, anybody can join, but you do have to join, because in that way, it's not just, I guess, because of what's going on there. You can bring your own alcohol. They provide the mixers. They have like a locker room area, and you come in and there's a dance club upstairs, which would appear like a regular dance club and bar. But then downstairs, there's like separate rooms where people can just go into. You don't have to reserve and have sex, with different type of beds and setups. And then there's one big open room where you might have, not that necessarily people having sex together, but you might have a couple in this bed, a couple in that bed, a couple here, where you can see other people. So it started with, we went to this one sex club a couple times. And then there was a couple apps that we joined where you can meet other couples, or that were looking for the same thing. Be it if they call it to swing or swap, or, there's different terms for it. We had a very hard time meeting another couple that to find all 4 people attracted. So we'd met a couple people out for drinks, but never hit it off with anybody that we wanted to go play with afterwards. So then there's house parties. So on these different apps, like there's a big one, and they're not actually an app, they're a website, that's called FetLife. That's FetLife. It's a website. Been around for many, many years. And it has everything from any type of kink activity somebody may be into, to people that are just looking for swing partners, a partner to meet, to have sex with, or no attached, strings attached sex. So we went and looked on that. And the nice thing is that you can either, like a dating application, look at people's individual profiles to try to meet them or be friends with them, or they have events listed, and a lot of events in your area. So they have these things called a munch that you go to like once a month. That would be a happy hour. So the nice thing is you meet all these people out in a situation that, everybody is regularly dressed, and make contacts to see if you're going to meet people that way. We met some nice people that way, and like went rafting with people, and then a pool party afterwards. And sometimes things would develop after that. There's people that have house parties that are just like any big party would have gone to in college, that you apply ahead of time if you're going to go or not. You can see everybody that's going like on a regular invite list. But usually there's a fee you pay when you go in the door. And that covers usually the alcohol, snacks, and condoms are always out. There's lubes out in the different rooms. So it looks like a regular house party, usually in one room. And then there's different bedrooms, a room that people might be playing or having sex in. And that would pay for that. So we went to a couple house parties as well. And I found that the hard thing about it, when you go with somebody else, a lot of these parties, single women are always offered or available to go to. They very much limit how many single men can go in. They want more couples, just because the dynamics, I guess. that it can be intimidating when I've been to a party when there's too many single men there, because you will see people playing and all these guys standing around the edges, naked, rubbing themselves, and it can be intimidating. So they try to watch the ratio. And a lot of times they'll have different people that take turns working the door. So it's interesting, but I do think it's hard when you go to those parties, when you go with somebody you've been with a long time. Like, we were in a regular committed relationship, going to these parties together, because if he would, let's say, find somebody he'd want to play with and I couldn't find anybody, then there can be jealousy, or you want both the two people to be happy before you go off and do what you're going to do. Like, you have to figure that out with your partner, and I think that's hard when you've had a regular traditional relationship before going to that.
What happened, like, after the first time you went to, like, the club where you watched and just kind of got into it? Like, did you have a conversation?
Well, the first time we went to the club, we sat there and you listen to music. We sat there, we listened to music. People were dancing, just would like to be in a dance club. Nobody, it seemed like a lot of people had talked to people ahead of time and met people they knew were going to be there. So nobody really just approached us. So we went downstairs eventually after an hour or two to play in the big open room. And we're having sex on, one of the beds. And while we're in the middle of having sex, which was interesting, literally a man walked up to me, because the beds are all spread out. It's not like one big mat on the floor or whatever. It's like maybe 20 different beds in this room, all spread out. And we're having sex on one bed that's kind of a little bit higher. And this guy walked by to watch. And they tell you, you don't just go and touch somebody. You always ask. There's a lot of rules and things they go over. There's a lot of bouncers and people working these places to make sure people don't touch or do weird things that aren't invited. They don't let people just go in those rooms and stand and watch. You have to be outside the door. The door is open and there's a glass window, but you're not allowed to just come and stand and watch at the end of the bed like that. You should be engaged with somebody or not in the room. And he was just standing at the edge right by my face while I'm having sex with my partner, doggy style. And he just asked if he could grab my boob. And I wasn't even looking at him. Like, I knew somebody was standing there. I was kind of taken off guard. And then I was like, sure. And then he thrust his penis in your face. So some people know better and some people don't. Most people, my experiences, were really good about giving space and kind of asking or waving to before they would come and get in your bubble, which is the way it should be at those type of events. It is definitely not okay that people just come up and grab or rub anybody. That's not considered acceptable at all. And the people in these places upstairs are wearing totally normal clothes. And some people might be wearing more sexy stuff than you would think you would normally see, but it's not like naked upstairs in that part of the club. It'd be like a dance club where you see people wearing dance clothes. When you go downstairs, that's different. You may see people totally naked walking around, or people in lingerie, or wearing whatever they're into. You know what I mean? Costumes, what do you call it? Cosplay type things, to fetish wear. But upstairs, people are just wearing regular clothes you'd see going into a club.
Yeah.
So, so we had sex together. Yeah. So we had sex together that first time we went. Somebody asked to join us, like I said, and I didn't mind him touching me, but when he asked to have sex with me, I was like, no, because I didn't talk to the person at all to know who he was. I found that very invasive. So he went back over to his bed, which I felt bad for the woman he was with, because he came with this woman and must not have told her he was going to do this. And she's laying on the bed looking at him like, what are you doing? He just was attracted to us and decided to leave her. And she's just sitting with this horrible look on her face. So it was a little odd. We went to that club a couple times and had just had sex with each other. Never had sex with anybody else at that club. We had been successful at a couple parties where we met other people and had sex with other people at parties. Met another couple at a party and all went to the room, and 4 of us were having sex at the same time. 2 different couples. Yeah. On the same big bed. I found that the parties are more comfortable. I felt more comfortable at the parties than at the clubs. But I think that's just, everybody's got to see what's, a fit for them. If you're not big into dance clubs, and which I'm not, that's probably why I didn't really like that atmosphere. Where the house parties, some of them, the ones I liked better, were maybe 10, 20 people. So they were smaller. You knew who was going to be there. Sometimes people have a hot tub outside, so you talk and drink, and there's a hot tub, and people go in and out into a playroom or not. I was more comfortable with that, but I think that's my personality, and you have to find what you're comfortable with. And most people don't stay at the party all night. Most people stay maybe an hour to hour and a half. And these parties that start at 9 and go to 2 in the morning. Because people come in, they'll have sex, they'll do their couple things they're doing. Most people don't stay for hours and hours. Even though some people might go in and play, and then come back out and drink and talk and then go back in. It is interesting. The other club I'd gone to in DC, there's very different types of clubs. The first club, Taboo, was strictly not a lot of fetish, more just couples having sex there. There's another club in DC that's a very famous one called the Crucible. The Crucible is, I mean, we're talking a huge club, the size of a warehouse when you go in. Huge. Very nondescript on the outside. I don't even think it has a name on the outside. It's in a neighborhood, actually, in part north side of DC. And you go in, and there's the first thing you do is there's a big, at the door, you pay to go in. You don't have to have a membership, but you pay to go in. There's a huge dressing room, like open dressing room, both sexes, right? When you first walked in through the door. And there's luggages there. You see people like big coat cubbies, right? All this stuff. And you're like, wow, that's kind of weird. It's like you walk through it. And then you go into this huge warehouse and you understand why. There's these big luggages and all these people's clothes. When you enter this really large warehouse, interesting thing is that you walk in and around all the outside of the warehouse, let's say 3/4 of it, are these big tables that look like a massage table. And there's a different person sitting next to each one. And a lot of them, mostly men, that were hosting a table. Each one was kind of like a different theme. A lot of the men were dressed very steampunk style, like the black pants, the white shirt, the suspenders. They all would do something kind of different in the kink world. Like you had somebody at one table that would wrap lights and do a little bit of light electronic shock on people or knife play. And then you had somebody at the next table that might be doing wax play. And the next table was a latex table where somebody has a table you lay on between these two pieces of latex and they massage you. And then the next table, somebody else is doing cupping and massaging. And it's free. Once you pay this thing to get in, all these tables are free. And then in one corner, there's needle play and medical play, which is there's actually tile on the floor than a medical table where people use needles and get poked with needles and play with blood over there because they find that sexually arousing. So there's all these different tables, different themes. Some of them are like the cross you would think of, the wooden cross, I don't know what you call it. There's a name for it. That they'll tie something to that somebody might be being flogged or spanked on, like a dom sub type of thing. So there's all these different tables that going on. Then in the middle, there's a dance floor, which is a traditional dance floor, but it's got a pole. So you have some people dancing, you have some people stripping on it because I went to on a bar in the corner. And then what was really interesting, the far back wall has all these, you think you're at a climbing gym, big ropes hanging from the ceiling. They go all the way down. And then some that are ropes that like almost look like a jungle gym going across. And there'd be women, like these beautiful women that look like they were gymnast or aerialist that would climb up the ropes. It's called suspension. And they tie themselves up these ropes and hang and kind of do like a strip tease to their partner sitting on the floor below. And there might have been one or two men that did, but usually it was women that would do it. But it was amazing what they could do with their bodies and how athletic they were. Yeah, and they'd be doing that. And so there's a big corner of that. And then in the far back, there's one little hallway with maybe 4 bedrooms with single beds in it, right? Where you could go, no doors, to go and have sex if you wanted to. But the 2 times I went there, no one was ever in those rooms. It's really interesting. No one was ever in those rooms. People are always on the big floor. And you would see people having sex, like at those tables, but usually it was not like what you would consider traditional sex of anal or vaginal. You would see somebody more being masturbated by somebody else, having an orgasm. Or you might see somebody getting oral sex, but usually you weren't seeing your traditional sex act. Yeah. And you were seeing a lot of different kink. You'd see people using vibrators and different tools that like somebody at the cradle prod shocking somebody. You know, and this is all consensual things. Yeah. But I mean, so many different types of kinks that you could not imagine. You'd see people walking around the dance floor where they would come with, that were polyamorous, that they'd come with their whole sex family, that there'd be, they call it bigs and littles. There'd be like a dad figure and a mom figure, and then like 2 other women or men that were smaller in size with them wearing collars and leash to these other 2 people carrying stuffed animals. And they like to play these family roles. So you would see a lot of different, it was just overwhelming to watch. It was like, if you like going to the circus or the fair, because you like to people watch, this is your place. Yeah. You can see everything. You know, even if you don't want to pretend, and there's no pressure to partake at all. Like I'd say 80% of the people there are on the dance floor, walking around, having a drink, enjoying themselves, talking to people. And maybe 20% of the people there are engaged in these activities because there's a lounge in one corner with pool tables and chairs where people can relax. And there's a bar area. And like I said, the dance floor. So the Crucible, like I said, is a very, very interesting club that's considered like a kink club, but it is a sex club. And I know there's 2 other clubs in the area that are considered, that I think are more along the lines we do think a traditional sex club that are in the DC area. I've just only been to those 2.
Did you guys talk after, like, the first time to see, like, if you were both cool with it or liked it? Or, I mean, obviously you kept going, so it was probably fine with both of you, but.
Well, it was interesting. The reason how we found out about that was, like I said, we met some of these people at a munch, right? Which is like a happy hour. I don't know why they call them munches, but they do, because I guess people get snacks and drinks at these happy hours and talk. Somebody invited us to this kick group, right? That they talk, right? About these different events and they're doing. And I'd say 50% of events are not sexual events. Like these people get together to go to trivia night. Or they might get together to, let's say they're playing putt-putt golf, or like we went rafting with this group of people, right? They decided that a couple of these people were very into kink. One of the guys ran one of the tables where he did the electrical play, where he'd, and the knife play. So he'd shock people with these instruments, and the knife play where he'd slightly put pressure points of sharp things on people. He always ran a table there. And there was another lady also in the group that ran a dungeon class that was very known in the area to teach people how to be kind of like, I don't want to know if it'd be a dominatrix, but she would tie people up. She had a dungeon at her house. Like it looked like a big crossbar with 2 vertical slats. And she'd tie someone by the hands and she'd beat or flog them. And people would come to her house just for that, men and women. Well, they both ran booths there. And the one woman was so famous, like she would teach a class there a couple times a month. So they had said that they have a big calendar at this club, the Crucible, which was really nice. So you know what different themes are for different nights. So if you're into something, that might be more of a night like this is more of a gay theme night, or this is more of a St. Patty's Day theme night, or this is going to be talking about water sports night. Like they would give you the different themes for the different kinks. So you kind of knew what was going on, or if it was geared towards a certain orientation. But so once a month, they always do like a beginners or intro night. And so we went to that with these people, which I think was really smart because 2 of them worked booths there. So we went on intro night with a couple people we knew from this group. So, and maybe it's also that night because I hadn't gone on other regular nights. So you have, I'd say 75% of the people just on the dance floor walking around versus 25% actually doing things. And we went to 2 different intro nights with the group, and we'd all go to dinner before. And I think my partner that I was with might have got on the one table and got like the cupping done by one of the females that hosted the table. He laid on the table and he got the cupping done and the massage done. And I'd gotten wrapped with electrical before and had the light shocking done. Yeah. I mean, it was okay. Like to us, we just didn't find the kink to be for us. Like we like to watch it, but it wasn't as much that to go all the way the 45 minutes away and to pay to get in, that we like to engage in it as much as some other people. Because some other people, that's really what they get their orgasm from is those different types of kink activities. Whereas we found it interesting to watch. It could be arousing, especially to watch the people do the aerial stuff was amazing. To see these beautiful people do the stuff and the striptease, but it wasn't enough, I guess, for us to hold our attention that we'd want to pay to go every week to do that. You know what I mean? It was interesting to see, very, very mind-opening. Because I would just say for anybody that's interested in doing some of these different type of kink activities that they've heard of, and maybe 50 Shades of Grey, there's so many different types of kink activities that people are into, that a club like the Crucible, and there's probably other ones across the country, is a great place to go. Because you go on an intro night like that, you are going to see everything. And then, even if you don't want to partake in it there, then oh, I'm going to go get that or buy that toy and try that at home. And the people are all very friendly that run these tables.
There's a show on Netflix that talks about, it's like sex, love, goop. Gwyneth Paltrow has it. And I guess there's a love quiz. There's a sex quiz out there, and you can see how into kink you are or not. There's like 5 sex languages, they call it. Yeah.
Oh, I've taken that. So a lot of people on FetLife, which has been around a long time. I don't believe they have an app. I believe it's just a website. It is free to join, which is interesting about FetLife. It is free to join. You just join the website, and it'd be like any old school dating application or website. You just make your profile, right? And a lot of people, put a fake name. Most people don't have their face in their main pictures, just their location. You can pay like a donation fee, a one-time donation fee for life. If you want to be able to watch people's videos, you have to pay. Otherwise, the videos are locked, but you can see all the pictures, people's profiles. But it's a really interesting site because it has everything with all the different events. There's a lot of different message boards. So for people that are interested in different forms of sex other than just regular plain old, let's say, missionary sex with the same partner you've had forever. And you just want to meet some different partners, or you want to try some different things that might be considered a fetish or kink. That's a great place to go because they have everything there. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the easiest site to always navigate, to know where to find things. But definitely it is free. There is an event page. There are groups, and you can find people through those groups. If you go to the groups where you type in anything you might be interested in, like let's say age play, or somebody's into anal or age play or water sports, you can type that in the line under groups and a group will come up for it. I guarantee you, probably 10 of them. And sometimes they're even by your area. And you could, like, for ours, it might be in the DMV area. You're looking for like house party or swinging group. You'd put that in, and then you could put in the DC area, and then it would come up, with all these different pages, groups that join. And the people just post like any event. So when different events are coming. And then you can RSVP if you want to go or not. And like I said, it is much easier for a female than a male because I always want single females. A lot of the male events, for a lot of the events with the men, you have to bring a partner. And it doesn't, obviously somebody with you, because they really limit how many single men. To try to keep things safer and not as intimidating, I guess, from my experience. You're just looking for something different with your partner. You want to maybe meet some other people to swap with, or you're a single person and you want to find somebody that's into a certain type of sex that you're interested into. Like, let's say you want to meet somebody to try bondage, or you want to be a sub, or you want to find somebody that's interested in water sports or anal or age play. You can type that in the search line there, and different groups will come up. And you can even search sometimes by your area to find these different groups. And then there's message boards and people post events. So it is definitely a good way to find people for interest in different things.
And between you and your partner, like, is there jealousy? Was it weird? Did it feel fine? Like in other couples you've talked to?
Well, I would say I've known him now coming up on 5 years. We were together 2 years before, and I mean dating, monogamous for 2 years before we decided to try things in lifestyle. I do think that it led to some jealousy issues when we were there on the nights that if we both didn't find somebody to play with, there was jealousy issues. Even though we had rules and, boundaries, like we would talk about, we would never just go off with somebody. Be like, we'd ask somebody like, I'm going to go play with whoever in this room. And they'd be like, okay. And we were fine with that. That was our rule. As long as we came to the party together and you told somebody to go do something, that was fine. That we could play with other people if we're at the same event together. And the other person knew about it. But we were not playing with other people outside of those events. That was our rule and guideline. I know many people that's not the case. They're in totally open relationships, even though they're in I guess I should say, a monogamous relationship in the sense that they live together and how it looks on the outside, but they might have different sexual play partners that they just have sex with. They're polyamorous. That's not how we were. We just would do these things at events because we felt like that was the best for us. Because we didn't want to be dating somebody else and bring that drama into our relationship. We just occasionally wanted variety in our relationship. Yes, I do think that it could at times cause jealousy. It could cause big fights because usually it's easier for females at these parties. There's usually more men. I think to find someone to play with, then it might be harder for a guy. So yes, I do think that for us, we might have had 2 or 3 good experiences, but I'd say we had a lot more fights and jealousy from it than we probably had good from it in our experience. Yeah. I do think that it probably could be really good for couples that if you start that way, then it's probably fine because your relationship was started that way. We went from being in a regular traditional, so I think it put trust issues, into problems there. I would say me and this guy that I've known for almost 5 years, we were still friends. We still play together sexually, but we don't live together anymore. We lived together for 2 years at that time. But basically what a big part of what curtailed us going and playing these parties was when COVID hit for about a year, you had nothing going on with that because of obviously safety. So we stopped with that. And then when it came back around to where you could start to go to the parties, our relationship was just in decline anyway. We weren't getting along well. We tried to go to 1 or 2 parties and it just caused huge, horrible fights, after the fact, because one of us would want to leave. Because one of us would be done, would want to leave. The other one would stay and drink. So I think every couple is different. I think it's either going to greatly enhance somebody's relationship if you're in a relationship, or it can cause I think it's going to be one or the other.
Yeah. So in other episodes, people talked about the communication was the key. Like that was the biggest part. Like I did an episode on BDSM.
Correct.
And communication was brought up. The female-led relationship episode, communication was brought up. So as long as you as a couple can work it out, what works and what doesn't work, and adjust if you need to, it sounds like.
Yeah. Like, I mean, well, I think when we started to promise is more just that we found, like, after we had gone to one of these house parties and I had not played with anybody that evening, I just wasn't having a very good time. He had gone to one of the rooms where somebody's giving free massages. And I was like, sure, go get a massage. But she was totally dressed. He was just supposed to be going to get a massage because we talked if we were going to go have sex with somebody, have intercourse with somebody. And the door was open the whole time. And I walked in and I see he's having a massage, and that's fine. And I walked back out, and then he was mad at me because he said I came back and interrupted, but I was like, it was just supposed to be anyway. But so afterwards, about a week or two later, I found that he had continued to talk to this person, to give them a massage at the party, and had set up a time to go meet this person. And our rules were that things only happened at events, not outside of. So unfortunately, if people don't stay to what they agreed upon, so for us, that caused issues. We always found that it's way easier for me as a female to get attention and options to do things at parties than for him. And so that would lead to jealousy or frustration because he felt like he'd be walking around trying to talk to people and it'd be much easier for me. And so I wouldn't want to do anything until I knew that he finally had somebody to do something with. And so it was hard for us. I'd say our couple good experiences were better when it was a small group. We knew the people ahead of time. We knew who we were going to play with. And so everybody had something to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's a lot.
But I think everybody's very different.
And it sounds like there's a variety on the site itself that could be enough for some people just to look through it and have the fantasy of it versus doing it.
That's the great thing is, like I said, I would say the different apps that we use one called Field, which is very good for, Field is good if you're looking to find a third partner to add to your relationship, be it male or female. We use one called SLS, which is an app. It's a website because it's older too. It's really looking for swing partners. And that could be singles looking for people to swing with and meet up with, or couples. It's not really kink based. Where FetLife is the one that if you're looking for any type of alternative sex other than what you think is traditional man, female, having intercourse, you're looking at things from bondage to age play to water sports to anything that you might think is out off the average that you're taught about in sex ed. FetLife is the page for you to go to because it's going to have every group, and you can type in any word or thing you've ever seen in a video. Type in a line and something's going to pull up with a group or an event, or at least a message board of other people that like that you can start to talk to and find people in your area. So that's what's great about that.
Yeah. I can see where people even getting ideas about the different stuff out there, be like, even if they just do it themselves, at least get an idea.
Like, I would just say, and I know every area is different. Obviously you and I live in a big metropolitan area. So there are clubs and different things around. I don't know about different parts of the country, how prevalent some of these clubs are, but we're very lucky that if you want to go to a club where you see a lot of different things going on, different kink things that you might call. And when I say kink, it doesn't mean necessarily BDSM where people are getting hurt or hit hard. Like I said, there's the water play, the latex play, the cupping. It's just different ways that somebody might, achieve orgasm or sexual arousement. You have the Crucible, which is amazing. And that's a club you can go to see it in person and go to that intro night. And they even offer classes, or people talk. And the people are so nice that run the tables and they'll tell you where they got things or, or this or that. And obviously everybody has the right to say no when you go to these places, but people are not very aggressive there. You have to walk up to these tables if you want to do something. So it's very open to be able to stand there and watch. Yeah. And I think that's a big turn for a lot of people because you can see it and then you go home and then you have this great sex because you saw something you've never seen before. You know what I mean? We live in an area that we're very lucky to have a lot of great different resources. So if you want to try some different things, you have a lot of different clubs. And there's a lot of groups that do these happy hours in this area, in the DC area, to check things out.
And you can share that story you're about to say. I wanted to make sure you knew it was like coming to the end.
I was just to say, when I went to the Crucible, I went to the Crucible twice. And I remember I've been to a lot of different sex parties and seen a lot of people where they're having open play, doing a scene, seen a lot of other people orgasm, obviously, other than myself, my direct partner, that were in a huge warehouse. And this lady was partially suspended in a rope and having sex. And they were an older couple. I'd say she was probably in her 60s and having sex. And I saw that they had like a plastic Tupperware on the floor underneath her where she was like, I guess her feet were down, her upper body was half tied up and her feet were down. And she had this Tupperware underneath. I was like, that's interesting. I wonder what the Tupperware is for. And he's having sex with her doggy style and using a vibrator on her. And she came so hard in this club, and we're talking music playing, huge warehouse, that you could hear her screaming over all this noise and everything, and her squirting to where she filled up this whole Tupperware.
Wow.
I mean, like, it was just amazing to see somebody come that hard. You know what I mean? Because usually you're engaged in your own, not watch something else like that, and to be that loud over all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It was like she was the Olympic champion of having orgasm. It was amazing. And it was also amazing that to see people of every different body shape and age. These were not young people, you know? So I thought that was really cool and interesting to see.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for giving us all the scoop on the lifestyle. That was a lot of information and lots of resources, which I like to provide. So all the apps and the websites and the information will be, and I know someone else told me that they found this podcast interesting. So she will really hear a lot this time because she thought some of the other episodes were a lot. So.
And as Tamara does know the partner that I'm talking about, but with these things with too. So she has an interesting point of view because she knows us both.
But all right. Yes. Well, thank you very much for being on. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you did, tell your friends about it and rate it. And you have been listening to Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Addie.
Frank Talk, Sex and Dating Education.